Hard Conversations. That's what's coming up on The Art of Bombing, episode 152.
My friend Dan, he's got a podcast, 'cause all comics need a podcast, and nobody had a podcast called The Art of Bombing. So Dan went out and bought a tape deck. Who knows why he bought a tape deck? Podcasts don't get played on tape decks, but Dan is from the 80s. So hey there, all you funny jerks, come talk to Dan about your work. Tell him all about your worst times. It's The Art of Bombing.
Welcome to an all-new episode of The Art of Bombing. I'm Dan Bublitz Jr. It is Friday, July 31st, 2020. We're made it to the end of July. That means tomorrow will be August. The year's trucking right along. No, it's not. I'm lying. This has been the longest year ever. It's like we've already had 2020. Like every month of 2020 feels like a whole year of 2020. That's how it seems to be going. I tell you, I think we all are ready for 2021. At least I know I am. But thanks for tuning in. Like I said, it's Friday. That means we made it to the weekend. I hope everybody had a fantastic week. I hope you have some good plans this weekend. I'm going to go comic shop hopping. That's right. I'm going to go try to support some local businesses, go hit up some comic book shops, try to find some treasure, if you will. And but don't worry, I'm going to do it socially, do social distancing, wear my mask, bring my hand sanitizer. I'm going to be safe, but I still want to support some local businesses, so that's what I got on the agenda. But today on the show, I have a really good guest, a friend of mine from my days in San Diego. Mr. Dewey Bratcher joins me today, and I will say, I'm going to call it, I guess it's a trigger warning, if you will. I guess that's what the cool kids call it. I don't know if I'm using it right, but I'm giving you a warning. This is a conversation, a deep conversation about everything that's going on in America dealing with racial tensions. We had a long conversation, and that's why this episode's called Hard Conversations, because we went in deep into it. And so if you're trying to stay away from politics and protesting and Black Lives Matters and things like that, then maybe this ain't the right podcast for you. However, I will say I think you should listen to it. I think you need to listen to this. You need to hear a perspective that's not yours. We had a great conversation, and don't worry, it isn't all politics and protesting. We did talk about the comedy and the art of bombing, because it can't be the art of bombing without all that. But we did have a good, long, deep conversation about the state of events, and I really encourage everybody to listen to this episode. It needs to be heard. And if you listen to it and you think you got something that you got to do takeaway or perspective, share the episode. That would be great. And if you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe. Leave us a 5-star rating. Write a review wherever you listen to podcasts. Apple Podcasts really helps. Spotify, get those reviews out there. Helps us get found. For everything else for The Art of Bombing, you can go to theartofbombingpod.com. If you go to the Facebook, you got the Facebook page. There's a Facebook group. You can also buy merchandise. I don't know if you know that, but you can buy merchandise. I got a store actually set up on Teespring now for Blitzed Entertainment, and that is posted on the Facebook page. You can buy some merchandise. I'll put it in the show notes too. Actually, there will be a link in the show notes for this episode for some merchandise. If you wanna buy some swag to support the show, that would be fantastic. Other than that, I don't really have anything to promote. I mean, I've got some virtual shows coming up here, but I can promote them next week. But remember, this will be the last episode that I release on Fridays. Starting next week, the first week of August, we will be back to one episode a week, and that will be on Tuesdays, the normal schedule. I might start sprinkling in some more between bombs, because I haven't did them in a while. But like I said, the previous episode, I have to scale back. So here we go. Here's my conversation with Dewey. Enjoy.
I'm in my 50s. I'm almost trying to be controversial.
You're like, I'm all about being on the record. Let's do this. Oh, I love it. Oh, that's great. Oh, man. Have you been... I don't know how California is. I know they've been touch and go with things. Have you did any comedy really during the pandemic, or have you did any virtual stuff?
I did. I haven't done anything virtual, although Benji, I guess, is doing some virtual stuff, and maybe I can get on one of those. But I did a weekend at the Palace 2 weeks ago, maybe 3. It was really, really good. And there was a different sense in the audience. They were like just happy to be there, to be out.
Oh, I'm sure.
It was a little different. But, it's just, it was good to be on stage, man. And, it was a good weekend of shows, really good weekend of shows. So
that's good. That's good. Yeah.
I was thankful for that.
Yeah. It's a scary time. Live comedy it's a scary time for live comedy for sure. Cause you just don't know what's what, and what's going to be what.
How about you?
I did a couple, I did some virtual stuff here and there, and I had my own storytelling show that I was doing. But since things have kind of slowly started opening up, I did 2 shows. I did an outdoor drive-in show, and then I did one show that was kind of indoors or whatever with the, socially distancing and that kind of thing. And it was all right. I don't know. I guess I haven't really been in a big, hurry to go. Because, there's open mics now that have been starting back up here in Minnesota. And I'm just not that crazy about going out. I'm like, if I'm going to risk getting sick, I better be getting paid.
Yeah.
Or it better be a good show.
How's it seen in Minnesota?
It's pretty good. For the most, so where I'm at, because I'm in St. Paul, which is basically right across the bridge from Minneapolis, so it's like the Twin Cities. So the Twin Cities has a pretty good comedy scene. It's a lot, as far as scenes go, it's like your bigger scenes. Just like, San Diego, we have multiple comedy clubs. You can pretty much go to an open mic almost every day of the week. At least that was prior to the pandemic and, and COVID. Now things are a little different, because things have been closed or whatever. But yeah, it's a decent scene. There's a lot of a lot of comics that are based out of here that tour a lot and headline and have been on TV. They've been on Conan and they've been on Late Night and stuff like that. And instead of living in LA, they choose to live out here.
There's a great place to kind of, it's half the distance to both coasts and blah, blah, blah. So it's a decent way to, from what I understand, to kind of have a home base.
It is. Honestly, that's why I moved back to the Midwest, is I wanted to do more road work, and it was financially, it made sense financially to live here and, pay cheaper rent and that kind of thing, especially if you didn't plan on being there much. You know what I mean? Because essentially, if you work the road a lot, when you pay for a place, you're just paying for storage, for your stuff if you're hardly home. And that's kind of how I felt about it, where it was like, I want to get some more chops working the road. I could move to LA and start doing stuff up there, but if I want to work the road, you have all that extra travel. And here, I can drive to a lot of gigs, with, a lot of day drives get you to a decent gig, so you save on, travel and things like that. So,
all of it.
Yeah. And the nice thing about Minneapolis area now is that it's the main hub for an airport. It's a main airport, so you can get in and out pretty easily if you need to. But it's pretty good. How have, as far as before the pandemic, how's comedy been for you?
It's been kind of touch and go. I may be in a somewhat unique. I don't know. The group that we were palling around with 4 years ago. That's so many of those guys have gone.
Mm-hmm.
Brian Simpson, Zoltan's still, but he's above, and kind of Eric Knowles is gone. Just that whole Nick Crosby's gone, Dan Venti's gone. So many of those guys, I can kind of think of, and the scene is still thriving. But I kind of took a year off, maybe a couple years ago, working a lot, and I think I dedicated myself to baseball. Umpire, so I said I got to do this, train and whatever. So I wouldn't do a lot of comedy. And by the time I kind of came back, I didn't know anybody, and nobody knew me, and my name didn't mean anything anymore. So as before, the guys would be like, Dewey, can you, hey Dewey, hey Dewey. Now I'm like, hi, I'm Dewey. And they're like, so?
Who are you?
Yeah, and it's just human nature. It's a little cliquey, and they're young. They're really young. So,
Yep. No, yeah.
I got to fight all that.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the same moving to a new scene. It's like kind of starting over, because it's like, coming into, it's almost like going to a new high school, where you're like you're the new kid and nobody wants to be friends with the new kid. And like,
great analogy, isn't it?
It is. I mean, that's exactly how it feels. I mean, it wasn't so bad going back to South Dakota because they have a small scene, and I already knew a couple people in the scene from when I started comedy. And so like, that was like an easy transition. But coming to Minneapolis, that's exactly what it's like. It's like just starting over and moving to a new school.
And here's the thing. So be a good hangout partner, or be, cool to hang out with. I tried hard to do that. And, I was invested in making sure, but now, man, I ain't got time for it. I'm like, I'll walk in, and if somebody's like kind of standoffish, I'm like, fuck you, whatever. So I bet you my perception is 180 out from when I started. Because when I started, everybody's like, Dewey's a nice guy. I bet you they think I'm an asshole now. Because I just don't have time for all them. There's a lot of everybody's smoking weed. I don't smoke.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of that, it kind of boils down to how you can fit in, and if you can fit in, and if you even care. Because I'm the same. I don't partake in a lot of that shit. So I'm not one that wants to go hang out. I have a nice lady at home. I have my dogs and like other things. I want to go do my time and then go back to my comfortable life,
I mean, if I find somebody that I, have some type of connection with, or a couple of people, hanging out is cool. But again, I'm not trying to say anything special about me, but I'm 54.
Mm-hmm.
What the fuck do I look like trying to, say something clever to somebody who's 22 and high as hell? This is not.
No, I totally.
So it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
They're not bad people.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's the thing too. I mean, age does play a lot of that. Having a difference in age, because people who are in their early 20s aren't, not to say all of them are that way, but a lot of them don't have spouses, and they live with a bunch of other guys, and they have pretty much all the time that they want to hang out, where when you get older you have more responsibilities of things going on, and there's just not the time. Even if you wanted to, it's like I just got other commitments, but I feel the same. It's like I have nothing in common with people that are super young. And how is that? Then you end up becoming kind of the guy that's trying to fit in, you know what I mean? It's like the old guy trying to be cool, and I'm like, I don't want to be that.
I never want to hear somebody say that about me.
Yeah. That's like, do you see that? Do you see Dewey? He over there trying to be cool, hanging out with all the kids.
If somebody put me under, that would be one of my high psychological fears or something. Like, I don't want to be told that I'm trying to fit in. Whatever.
Yeah,
It'll
I
be
feel
organic
that.
or it won't happen at all.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. I think about that a lot. Just the old guy trying to fit in.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. Do you talk to? Do you still stay in touch with Nick?
We touch base every now and then. He's doing real good he's in Phoenix area. And he just told me the other day he's thinking about moving back to San Diego.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. That's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
I told him, 1 to 2 hours activate.
Right? Then you'll be out ready to hang and do some stuff, right? You have the pile back. Just talking about people you jive with. That'd be good. I just talked to him a little bit on Instagram the other day.
Yeah. Yeah, he's getting up a little bit. I'm happy, him and he and Tori are back together and they're doing real good. He's got a couple of kids, so I'm real happy about that for him.
Yeah. Yeah. He seems like he's been doing really good. It's like you don't get to talk to people a lot. Haven't really, necessarily talked to a lot of people or keep up or whatever, but that's one thing that's nice about social media. You can still keep up with people at a certain level without, actually having to, keep up with people. Not saying that talking, having a conversation with somebody isn't good or whatever, but, it goes back to what we're talking about, being busy with your own thing.
I can that you touched on social media. I can distinctly remember when I first kind of got into Facebook and thinking, this is the best thing ever because people I went to high school with or college, you can say, hey, what's up? And this and another, you see pictures, and it's just the coolest. And however many years later it's been, isn't it a shit show now?
Oh, my God, it's a dumpster fire. It's a complete dumpster fire.
Oh.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
Man.
I'm often like I'm always like right on the edge of, and I'm on social media a lot. I know that I have a problem. It's like a weird, like, I don't know if it's like a weird masochist thing where I want to torture myself because I'm on it all the time, and then I just get angry at all the shit that I see and all the shitty people. And I'm like, I need to stop this. And I'm like, but I'm in comedy. I still kind of need it. And I'm like, just like caught in this catch-22 or whatever. But then I had this realization, too, going back to what you were talking about, how great it is that when it started, how you got to keep up with all these people and touch base with people from your past. Mm-hmm. Because my fiance and I, we went to high school together and we connected over the years. We stayed in touch over the years because of social media, and then we ended up reconnecting in person, and now here we are together, and it's a great little thing, and that would have never happened without social media, So there are some, so there's cool things like that, but it, like I said, it's just a shit show all the time.
Here's where the two things meet, where there's a friend maybe you kind of forgot about, whatever. You hiccup on social media, like, oh, dude, where you been? What's going on? And you feel real good. You reminisce a little bit. And then he says, you don't agree with that Black Lives Matter thing, do you? Like,
oh, my God.
Oh, God.
Oh.
How do I get rid of it?
Right? And what's funny about that's the other thing with social media. Social media gave people the balls to ask questions like that because there's no repercussions for saying anything. You know what I mean? Like, you're in the safety of your own home behind your little keyboards and stuff. And in fact, I just saw somebody shared a quote from, and I don't know if you saw this, from Mike Tyson, where he said, social media has made people so comfortable that they can they're comfortable saying anything to anybody without being punched in the face. And I'm like, that is spot on.
So true.
And it is.
So
it's
true.
Spot on. I mean, some of the things that I've seen people, how they've acted and said and just commented on things on Facebook or just in social media in general, I'm just like, there's no way you could go into a building with those same people you're interacting with and say that out loud and somebody not want to punch you in the face. Or, you know what I mean?
Not.
Like, that's
cowardice.
Yeah, that's exactly what it boils down to. It's cowardice.
And Bijan is one of the nicest guys, right? He was relaying to me a conversation he was having with somebody where they were, talking that bullshit behind the keyboard. And Bees told him, "Look, dude, let's go meet somewhere. I'm tired of this bullshit."
Yeah, we need to have a face-to-face.
Yeah, and he wouldn't say anything in face-to-face with Bees, but just it's amazing. It's amazing to me. Whatever.
Yep. And then what's really frustrating too is like, you try to be one of the good guys or the good people, and you try to like, hey, and then you just get more because there's people just want to be ignorant and they want to have their opinion and they want to keep it, and you fight it and fight it and fight it and try to like change their mind, and it's like it's impossible to change their mind because they don't want their mind changed, and then you're just like running circles.
Yeah, I've noticed. I try. You even mentioned I try to be accommodating to a degree, and I've noticed people become emboldened to just kind of really, say, how it is. It's amazing. Human behavior. This whole period of time should be in a capsule and studied for sociologists, for
psychologists.
How one thing domino makes people act. Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely. There's just this year alone, they could learn stuff, like how people are acting. Oh. Not that this year, this isn't this is our whole entire history has been leading up to the way people are acting. The last 20 or so years in the country, and just it's slowly getting this way. It's basically it's like shaking up a bottle. That's what's been happening, and it's about to explode. Mm-hmm. And we're getting closer and closer to that point where that bottle cap's going to come off and just that big explosion.
I was thinking on my way driving home, I don't know if I'll be able to get it done, but I'm thinking about a sketch where a guy it's basically, have a banner 2020 and a guy interviewing a woman, and maybe he asked her to put her mask on, and then she starts carrying and just screaming at him and cursing and cursing and cursing. And then all the while in the background, there's one police officer who's doing just all manners of things to a black guy while two cops next to him are eating a sandwich. I don't know what's going on.
I don't know. I don't know if that would get if people would see that that's a sketch, they'd be like, "Who the fuck did this?" They'd probably think it was real. It'd be hard to distinguish if it was a sketch or something that really happened. Because that's where we're at. I know that's where we're at as a society, that you could make that sketch and people would believe it's a real event because people are acting that way. Yeah. Too. Like, that's the other thing. You see how people are acting in public, and it's the worst time to act that way. We live in an age where there's so much technology that anything you do that maybe that could possibly lead to a viral video is going to be recorded. Like, it doesn't matter what it is or how.
Do you think there's a subconscious?
What were you going to say?
Do you think there's a subconscious? Do you think there's a subconscious thread through a lot of people who almost want to go viral by doing something outrageous?
I mean, at some extent, maybe, because, in America, it seems like, and especially with all these, new, different social media platforms, you had like Vine, you have Instagram videos and things like that. Now you have the TikTok. Like, everybody in America, we're all a bunch of narcissists, really. We're all trying to get famous for something. That's what it seems like. We live in a society where we're only trying to be famous, and we want tons of followers and all the gratification and accolades and things from other people. So at some level, I feel like subconsciously that is there. But then I don't know how deep it goes into what would I do for fame, and do I care what I'm famous for? You know, because like if and I think that also it goes, but I think it has to play into their morale, because some people don't care how they get famous, and you know, subconsciously they probably want to be one of them people that goes viral, and they don't care how they do it, and acting that way absolutely is fine with them. But like for someone like me, like I don't want to be that person. Sure, I want to be famous, and it'd be fun to be in a video that went viral or something like that, but not for that. Not like that, you know? Like I don't want to be a cop that beat somebody to death, or, you know, some fat guy that got mad at McDonald's and shot up at the employees because they wouldn't open the door, or something stupid like that. No, I don't want to be that guy, you know? That's like, but I suppose at some level people don't care. They just want to be famous, you know? It's ridiculous. It's just like those attorneys.
Almost, I think, like a sickness that you don't even know you have or something, because it's so.
I believe that.
You know, video and things are so pervasive. Seeing just the every man or every woman on a video. Yeah. It's nuts.
Oh, it is, absolutely. I mean, yeah, just the way people act. And I think you are right, though. I think there is some kind of a subconscious where people just want to be in that viral video, that outrageous video, because they, you know, to them, they're like, oh, this is hilarious. Look what I did. I'm not really like that in real life, but hey, it got me, you know. And it's like, but what are you going to do with that? That's the other thing. People don't think about that. Like how you can get fame, you know, be in a viral video for something like that, and what's it going to do for you? It's not it ain't going to put you in movies and TV and things like that, you know, because people aren't going to want to work with you. They're in fact, a lot of your friends and family, if they have good morals, they're not going to want anything to do with you either. They're going to be like, I don't want to be seen with you. You're, you know, you become tainted almost. So it's weird.
I don't get all the screaming in public at the, you know, because you're upset about something. That's like a turn. That's a hard right turn that just, I don't understand it at all. You can get upset on the daily about anything. Everybody's upset, you know, all the time. But I don't get the scream. Where did that come from, bro?
It's adults. It's grown ass adults throwing tantrums like children. And it just shows you how entitled and I feel like a lot of it, you don't see a lot of these, and maybe it's just not me, you're just not out there, maybe, I don't know, but you don't see a lot of these videos coming from people in other countries. You know what I mean? Like, you don't see a German blowing up at somebody because they said that they had to wear a mask, or, you know, somebody from Mexico flipping out about something. Like, you don't see that a lot. It seems to me like it's mostly just Americans, and Americans as a society, we're very, very entitled. Like, entitlement is a big part of this problem. Everybody thinks they're entitled, and they act on it all the time.
And we have a weird, you know, I think people get too caught up in the fact that, you know, we're freedom, and we're rebellious, and we, you know, fight for our freedoms, you know, big and small, whatever. I was just thinking how, you know, Germany went through the Holocaust thing, and no modern German would refer to it with anything other than horror, unless they're, you know, a skinhead or something, you know.
Yeah.
But the overwhelming majority of modern Germans say, yeah, that was bad. But
it's horrible.
Americans will find some type of excuse to say, well, you know, it's history, and it's our history, good or bad. And if we want to celebrate it, you know, we're free to do that because we're Americans. Instead of just saying, that was shit.
Yeah.
I think that's what makes us different.
That's a very good point. And I feel like that the whole freedom, we're Americans and we're free, is kind of what has led to that sense of entitlement. You know, everybody, because you're right. Everybody think, oh, we're America, we're free, we have all these rights and blah 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 blah. We can do what we want,
but a lot of other places do too.
Yeah, exactly. And they don't act this way.
No.
Yeah. That's exactly what I was talking about with, when you see these videos. I've yet to see a video of somebody acting the way a person acts out, like screaming at a Walmart worker or anything like that from any other country. I'm not saying it hasn't happened and it's not out there. But the mass majority of these videos of people being outrageous and flipping out and screaming and acting this way are Americans. And it's so bad that the rest of the world is like, we don't want nothing to do with America. And it used to be, you know what I mean? Like America has become tainted. People are like, I don't want nothing to do with you guys. This is, you guys are bad. We already didn't like you because you guys are kind of arrogant, but now... It's definitely a crazy time. That's for sure.
Why can't a person who's doesn't want to wear the mask or whatever, or is pro-choice, believes it's a hoax, whatever, you try to go in a store and say, oh, you have to wear a mask. Actually, there's no ordinance or da-da-da-da. No, but our store says, okay, well, I think you're wrong, and I just want to lodge a complaint. Can I get the store manager's name? That's so-and-so. All right, thank you. Boom.
Yeah.
And that way you're respecting the person who has to work and enforce that policy. It's not like they're saying, hey, you're a dick. They're saying my job is to enforce, what this company says. And if the person coming in, if they own the business, they would want to enforce it the way they want to enforce it. So it's always a little goofy to me. What the people who are doing that, on the one hand, they want to uphold these ideals, but it means nothing when it applies to them.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, it's it goes into like you see this a lot too. The all lives matter people. They keep people are all lives matter. Well, then why are we trying to open up schools? And then it goes into if this has anything to do about pro-choice or whatever, then suddenly, we're all lives matter again too. It's like all these things. There's so many contradictions in the way people think.
Yes.
Like it's so confusing for people. I don't even think people understand or know how to think. They're so confused by everything. Like they're tripping up on their own thoughts and beliefs. And constantly contradicting themselves. Because that's what you definitely see that a lot, especially now. Like I said, just today I've seen all kinds of stuff about in the last couple of days the reopening schools has been the big debate, and all these people that are all about opening up schools and risking the faculty and students and things like that. Same people that are screaming all lives matter, and it's like, but do they really? Like I don't.
Yeah. It only matters when it applies to me.
Exactly. and that goes back to entitlement. People everything is about me. That's the other thing with it seems like as a society we've become so the thing with capitalism and it's all about getting your own piece of the pie, which then makes you focus on you. And that then you become selfish because you're only thinking about you. You don't care about anybody else. It's not about building a community. It's about finding your own piece of that pie and trying to get however means possible to get that piece of pie. You're going to do that. And people end up becoming consumed with themselves. And you get so self-absorbed that nothing else matters. It's me, 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 me. And that, like you said, that goes into it only matters if it applies to me, which we're definitely seeing that a lot. Yeah, it absolutely is. It's how does it fit my agenda? And that's basically America politics, ladies and gentlemen. How does it fit my narrative and my agenda?
If you can coddle enough together enough issues that'll hit the chord with enough people to say, that's me, that's me, that's me, that's me. You can get some votes. But if your agenda is about, hey, everybody, and you making a little sacrifice for this next person because maybe you're doing pretty good, you're fucked.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Because that's what socialism and not capitalism. And capitalism is what our country wants. And, and I feel like there could be a hybrid, but, the other problem especially with American politics is nobody's really concerned about the actual issues and the people. It's all about, it's got a very sports mentality with the two-party politics, and it's either winning or losing. Doesn't matter what the issues are, or who's going to solve them, and how we can work together to fix the problems. It's just, I want to say my team won. That's all I care about. I won, you lost, neener, very, very grade school, schoolyard type of shit, which is very unfortunate because our country is. Whew.
I don't know how we fix it, but I do know no matter what, and I don't want to devolve this into a total Trump thing. We need a leader, and it can be from either side, really. It really doesn't, for all the things with conservatism, if that's the correct pronunciation, that I don't agree with. It's a necessary yin to the liberal yang. It's absolutely necessary.
Absolutely.
But we need a leader.
Mm-hmm.
The only way we move forward is we need a leader that's quite literally and the opposite of Trump. It has to be the opposite of him, because the only way things are getting solved is if both sides work together and the people put pressure on their representatives to work together. And he's doing the exact opposite of that. I don't know how we move forward and be better.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, that's all we can really, it feels like all we can do is hope that somebody comes along and gets there, because you're right. We need somebody that's going to be a leader. And I feel like that's where, you need somebody that's an independent, that's not affiliated with either side, that's more concerned with solving problems than their team winning. Yes. Because you run into that where you're absolutely right. We need both sides. It's conversations and working together to find, compromises and solutions instead of, our team won.
And the problem with the two-party thing is, if an independent comes along with great ideas, you can very easily, depending on which side he's leaning, that party to say, well, he's unelectable.
Mm-hmm.
And
absolutely.
The majority of people say, well, geez, we don't want to vote for him and he'll lose, so we put our vote with, so I don't know how we bridge that gap. It's probably got to be a party guy.
Yeah, it's definitely a trap. That's the trap of two-party politics. In fact, because I was looking, there's only ever been one independent that ever won in a presidential election. I shouldn't say independent. I shouldn't say independent. I mean, third party is what I should say, because he wasn't an independent. He was part of a party. Yeah, it was Teddy Roosevelt. He didn't run as he didn't run as a Democrat or a Republican, and he's the only one. And maybe I could be wrong on that history. Maybe prior to him somebody did, but I know nobody since.
He had a lot of opposition from big business too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's, but I do wonder, I know we've been talking a lot about politics and stuff, and it's a great conversation. But I wonder with that, like with the new law that they passed about how the Electoral College isn't supposed to stray, if that could be, it definitely could have a negative effect, but I wonder if it could have a positive effect, because now that means a third party could essentially win the vote, because if they win the popular vote, the electoral college then has to kind of go with what their state wants and give them the vote.
Yeah.
You know, but I don't know if that's how that all works. Exactly. You know.
Yeah, for a while, when Governor Cuomo from New York was trending because he was handling COVID pretty well, I know there was a rumor that somehow they were going to broker the convention or whatever and sneak his name into no, I wouldn't be sneaking, but give him the Democratic nomination. But I think that's all gone by the wayside. What is Biden doing? Is he asleep? Are they ever?
I don't know. I honestly don't know what. Honestly, that's my biggest problem with politics. I don't like the lesser of two evils options, and that's what a lot of it ends up being. Neither one of them are that great. I mean, but it goes to what you said. People are going to vote because of the lesser of two leaders, and neither one of them are really leaders. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't care what.
I think he may actually be his faculties may be compromised a little. I think so, and I think that's why they're holding off on putting him out there at all publicly. Because you think about it, why else would they? I mean, I understand Trump's going to step on his toe enough, and that's a decent strategy. But you would still want him to say something publicly at some point, just to galvanize his base. And the fact that they haven't let him, I think there's something too. So his VP president candidate is super key. I would think within a year, I'm not trying to be mean, within a year that person is going to be president.
Yeah, and it could be a situation where they're waiting until closer to the election. So that way, I mean, it's more of a strategy of being the face right before, because if we start doing a bunch now, there's time for people to change their mind. Where if you go hard right before the election, you're right in their minds, right in their faces. If you've decided to vote for that candidate, you're going to make that vote, So that could be part of their strategy too. Yes, I don't know.
What happens if it turns out he's deteriorating or something? And I'm not trying to be, if anybody's listening, I'm not trying to be a dick and say that he's compromised or part of it. I'm just going on the times I've seen him. It just seems like he's a little, I don't know.
He's a politician, so he is compromised. It doesn't matter. I mean, all politicians are compromised.
His mental faculty, right?
Okay, I gotcha.
It's compromised so much that they can't trust that he can get through long interview sessions or debates, whatever. So maybe they want to try to swap him out.
That's a very good thing. I mean, who knows? That could be. But I feel the same way about Trump. I don't think he has a mental faculty. In fact, I think a lot of the things that he says and the way he talks, he talks like somebody that has like dementia or Alzheimer's. Like there's no.
But it's ride or die with Trump.
I know it is. People probably will hate me for saying that if they're Trump supporters. But I honestly, some of the things the way he's acted and said, I honestly think he's got some kind of a disease like that. And that's coming from, I've had family members who've had the disease and interactions with them and the way, it's, because, and maybe it's one of them deals where it's just hard to believe that any sane person would act and say that way. Maybe that's my problem. It could be where I'm like, there's no way a sane person would be this way. But then now after you look at the way America's been lately, maybe I'm the one that's nuts.
I think if they graded narcissism on a 1 to 10 scale, he'd be in the 20s or something. He's
shit. Off the chart.
And he's fragile too. Fragilely narcissistic.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Oh yeah. As soon as anybody makes fun of him, he ooh. If anybody disagrees with him or anything, I mean, that's why too, with politics, we run into especially his administration, we're running into so many issues because anytime somebody disagrees with him and could potentially solve the problem, he's like, that's not right. You got to go. And they fire him and run him out of the administration. And now all we're doing, and he doesn't have the solution. So now here we are with all the problems, you know? I mean, the COVID situation is the best example of that. Like, he wants it his way, and if anybody disagrees and has an opinion other that in a logical opinion, he's like, get him out of here. Can't have it. You can't disagree with me. I mean, it's to the point where it's really scary because he's not acting as a president of a country. He is acting as a dictator in a lot of the ways that he acts, you know. Everything is what I say goes. And that's also, though, that is the same kind of mentality as a CEO. You know, people are like, oh, you know what our country needs? It needs a CEO. We need a businessman. Yeah. Well, businessmen think this way. It's my way or no way. You either agree with me or you're out of the company. And they don't care. They'll cut losses if they have to. They're only concerned with the bottom line. And if, you know, and that goes with people dying and stuff. That's why it's that people like that seem so they don't seem like they care, and they seem like they lack empathy because they don't care. They're only looking at a business, and you're holding business back. We got to cut you out, you know, and that's kind of what you're seeing with how they're acting with people being like, well, if a few more people die, whatever, you know, we gotta get business as usual. And that's kind of like, I know we shouldn't. It's horrible, but it's true. But that's also like where him getting elected president is really backfiring because a lot of people thought, oh, a CEO mindset could really save the country. And while there are some business things that could apply to running a country, there's a lot of business things that don't apply because you don't factor in, you know, emotion and humanity. Humanity's isn't part of business. You know, that's not how people make money. They make money by being cutthroat and going for the deal and doing whatever they have to do to make the most out of their bottom line. You know,
I gotta imagine there's a large group of white people in America who are like, you know, I don't like black people either, but I'd never say it. Just this guy. This guy.
I feel like, unfortunately, you're probably right. There are probably a handful of white guys that say that, which is unfortunate because it's like, why? That's something that just boggles my mind. And it's like, I grew up in a very racist area. That's all there is to it. Like, I grew up in a prominently white community, a white area, red state, my entire life. And how I don't think like that is beyond me. I don't know. I definitely got struck by something because I don't agree with any of that. I'm like, love everybody, you know, unless they're a dick to you.
You grew up in South Dakota?
I did, yes. And it's a very, you know, especially when I grew up there. I mean, now the town that I live in is pretty diverse because there's a lot of companies that have been bringing in refugees from other countries and stuff for labor and stuff like that. But growing up, when I was in high school, there was one black family.
I think you told me the story.
Yeah, I mean that's it. They're one black family when I grew up. I mean, there was some Hispanics and stuff like that but that was because there was a lot of like meat processing places around my community. So, you know, Hispanics were not as uncommon, but yeah, literally one black family that I knew of. And then of course we had the college, and that, you know, that attracted some more black people because of the athletics and stuff and things like that. But yeah, like I said, it's prominently white and it's always been a red state as far as I can remember.
well, I wonder what compelled one black family to move there and stay there. I can get where anybody would move anywhere. Just let's try this. Well, I don't know. Man.
I honestly, this is a funny thing that you bring that up because I often think about that all the time. And not just in a small town. Like, I do. I often think about, like, even with, like, they brought it, they've had people come, they bring in a lot of Korean, is that Karen? I think it's pronounced Karen, but it's like an Asian group of people. They brought in people from Puerto Rico and things like that after that hurricane and, as refugees, and they get them set up with housing and jobs and things like that. And I often think about why, of all the places you could go to try to go to make a better life, why in God's green earth would you choose to come to the worst place in the country? It's in it's cold winters, hot summers, and racist people everywhere. And it's like, and then you think, was it really that much worse where you were at that you're like, this is the good life? Because I'm like, damn.
Well,
I grew up here, and I'm like, I don't even want to be here.
If you're not from America, I can see where you're just like, well, America's America. You don't really know.
Yep. And I think that's
now I would do research.
Yeah.
But I'm just talking about that.
Go ahead.
Black guy, where he moved from, what his old neighborhood was like to where he says,
yeah, and see,
South Dakota.
And I don't know, I don't remember what he did for a job. I don't remember because I remember them, and in fact, I ran into Brandon Williams, was one of the kids. He was closer to my age. I think he was like a year younger than me, and then he had an older brother, and I think an older sister. And Brandon kind of ended up in our little friend group, and then I ran into him, but I don't remember what his dad did exactly. But I think the part of the reason they were there, I think his mom or stepmom was from the area. So, I mean, I think that might have been part of it. But I honestly, I don't know. It's definitely an interesting thing. But like I said, it's crazy because, like I said, I grew up in that, and I don't know, maybe I got lucky with my friends group, and we ended up being very more open-minded and more kind of on the liberal side, where it's like we definitely had different values. And I think about it all the time. I'm like, who did we get these from? Did we just get these from each other? Because I look at our parents and even my dad, some of the shit he says, I'm like, how am I his kid? Like,
I resented my dad a lot for some of the shit he believed. I mean, I resented him a lot. I would just be like, that's stupid. Why would you say that? Why would you?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like one thing for me, though, I feel like I've really progressed over the last 10 years, and moving out of South Dakota helped. I mean, I can very well say I was very ignorant and I didn't know a lot because I lived my first 32 years of life. I lived in South Dakota. Like I never moved anywhere else. I didn't have experiences with, other people, other cultures, things like that. Very limited. I only knew what was, around me. I mean, I've always had the mindset to be kind to everybody. Like that's always been instilled in my head. Like that's always, it's the basic treat other people how you want to be treated. And, so always be kind to everybody. It doesn't matter where they come from, what they look like, just be nice. And I feel like I know where that came from. That came from a lesson I learned as a child because, I made fun of somebody, an adult that had a disability, and he actually took me to the side and had a conversation instead of, just yelling or doing whatever. He took the time to have a conversation, and it totally changed my perspective on how I, seen and treated other people, which was good.
This is the disabled person who did that?
What's that?
This is the disabled person who took you aside?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yep. He had a conversation. Basically what it boiled down to is me and some other friends would, he'd drive by and we made fun of him for his, we're stupid kid shit. We didn't even know what we were really saying, really, other than we thought it was funny or whatever. And one day he took me aside and he had a long conversation with he told me what happened, why he had the disability. He was in a car accident. It's something he can't even control, went through, explained everything, told me how it made him feel, this, and this when people made fun of him and that people don't understand, and just a really good conversation. And ever since then, I'm like, okay, I got to be more conscious on how I treat people and the things that you say. So, which is a very good thing that he did, because it did really change how I seen other people.
Mm-hmm.
But even with that, though, I can honestly say, I was totally ignorant on a lot of things. Like moving to California definitely helped open my mind and broaden my horizons on things.
I think what really, I went to an arts high school in Baltimore, and to a person, I don't know, high school for a lot of people is traumatic and they hate it. They don't ever want to think about it. But my high school years were like this utopia where just about everybody who went there 40 years later still says it was like a magical place where race, sexuality, nerds, weirdos, everybody was just kind of in the same pot. And we all kind of left there looking at the world differently. You couldn't spend time there and look at the world the same as you did before. We all feel so fortunate. It's just, it's like we were sprinkled with this sort of magical dust or something, man. It was that's awesome. I always feel like I'm sort of allowing people to catch up. I learned something a long time ago. I'll let you catch up when you get there. It'll be good.
And there are a lot of people. I mean, like I said, with me being ignorant, there are people that need to catch up. There really are. There are people that don't understand a lot of things. Not because they're, there are people that are just plain out racist to be racist or biased to be biased. That's going to always be there. But there are people that are willing to grow and learn and be ignorant. I mean, I was ignorant about Corona at the beginning. I was like, this is fake. 1 week later, I'm like, whoa, this is not fake. And we got to do some serious shit here. You know what I mean? I'm very self-aware that I've had and, said and did things, but I'm also very quick to oh, wait a minute. I fucked up. I'm the dummy. I need to shut up and do more listening. And so then I do that and try to grow as a person. And I feel like I said, there's more people that are like that, which we definitely need to catch up.
Yeah.
Be nice if people would catch up a little faster.
Yeah. I was open with all, especially when the initial aftermath of George Floyd, which came after, Ahmaud in Georgia. It just seemed like, okay, this tide is turning for real. There's so many different people who seem invested in changing. Now I almost feel like, as usual, and because our culture now is so, what's the latest thing? And then it's on to the next thing.
Is. Yep.
I almost feel like all that momentum is just kind of wasted, and people are going back to making an excuse for anything and everything,
Oh, I could definitely see where you would see that. And because it is crazy. And it's like one of the things where people are trying to get back to whatever they're looking for, normalcy. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And that's what anything that can feel normal. And it goes to what you said. It's whatever the latest thing is. That's what becomes normal. And that's what people want to consume. So that way they have that sense of normalcy. And
it needs to be a new normal.
Yeah. Well,
it's painful getting there, but
It is. It's very. I mean, and I think more people need to have harder conversations. And that goes back to having, a leader. That's the key word. We need a leader that's willing to lead the conversation and get people talking to find compromise and find solutions and things like that. I mean, I think about this stuff a lot where, I see all this shit going on and different things. And it just blows my mind how we're letting, especially with police brutality, how we're just letting it happen. And you have all these people that talk about, well, we need to keep our guns so the government can't come get us. Well, the government's coming to get you. When you let that happen, it doesn't matter that they're a different colored skin than you. They're an American citizen. And when the police can get away with doing it to them, they're going to be, at some point, they can get away and do it to you too. And I'm not, it sounds very selfish to think that way, but you have these people that keep saying all about my rights. Well, your rights are being stolen and you don't even realize it. And then you're becoming not you, I should say, those people are getting so wrapped up into it that, and they're getting consumed into it. They don't even realize they're talking about keeping their rights. And then at the same time, they're letting somebody else's rights be taken. And then on top of that, they're like, oh, good job. Glad you did that. Where they're like, they end up getting consumed into the system, if you will, that end of it.
Well, wasn't it Lyndon Johnson? I don't want to misquote, but some politician in the 60s said, if we can get the poor black man and the poor white man to just argue with each other, we can fleece their pockets and they won't even notice. So, it's kind of a paraphrase.
Yeah.
But they recognize if they can get those people, or at least middling down, just keep them kind of arguing with each other, and everything else, they can do what they want to, because all we're worried about is arguing with each other.
Oh, absolutely. That's so true too, because that is a lot of what you see going on. I mean, I've been watching a lot of videos too on stuff, and my mind is just blown. I can't even imagine. Like, it's some of the shit that I've seen is ridiculous. And, I don't know. I just don't even know how. It's so overwhelming. It's like, how do you even get to a solution? How do you come back from this? You know what I mean? Like, where you can come back to a normal and to a peaceful and civil space, because it's like there's so many things that are causing so much outrage and rage. It can really make a person angry. Like, even going back to the situation with I'm probably going to say it wrong, but it was Ahmad, right? That was his name. Yeah. Going back to that, I mean, this is where our country is terrible. The fact that it took a story going viral on the internet 2 months or 3 months or 4 months or whatever it was after the actual situation took place, for them to even start getting justice, that's a very terrible thing. That is wrong. That just shows you where we're at as a country, and it's not a good place. It shouldn't take public scrutiny to get an investigation started. That is
of a murder.
Of a murder. Yes, exactly. Once that happens, right there, that's where you see rights are being taken away. Like, that is right what it is. That's where, our system, our judicial system, which is supposed to protect every person that is a citizen, that's where you see them not protected. They're doing the very opposite. And that is where that's the end of it. That's really everybody's losing rights there. And it's even sadder because people are losing their lives and nobody gives a shit. And that's where it's ridiculous.
And so, the bigger picture, we're kind of in a catch-22 because everywhere you look, every day there's a video of either police mistreatment or overstepping or sort of some outsized racial confrontation or whatever. And so you're left thinking, it's too much. It's all over. Isn't there anything to feel good about? I'm getting desensitized, whatever. But the catch-22 is if we don't have that stuff out there, a lot of this stuff will never get addressed, or will never get investigated.
You're right.
There's
it
a lot
swept under the rug.
So I just hope we battle through this time until, again, a leader or an event or something makes everybody get on board with some type of substantial change, whatever. But I fear people are going to just get tired of the process before it becomes something to fruition. Till we see the seed germinate in the sun. People because that's how we are. We just get tired of, and especially, unfortunately, white people really they really get resentful when you point out something they're doing wrong.
Hey, buddy,
I really don't like it.
Slow down with your
I wonder how much longer before we say, all right, shut up, we're decided to talk about it.
Yep. No, absolutely. I mean, and that is a lot of, you're right. A lot of white people do get resentful, and I see it a lot. I've really seen it in people that I grew up with, and at a level, I understand why they think the way they do because of how they grew up. They haven't been cultured, like there's people that just haven't been, they have never left this Midwestern town, and they've never had any bit of culture outside of that. So they only know what they understand. And it's a bad understanding of the world, and it's hard to open their minds. But like, I've seen a lot of them where they're like, get that attitude where it's like, it's not my fault that my ancestors owned slaves or whatever, and blah, blah, blah. Why should I pay for it now? And blah, 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 blah. And all this stuff that you see. And it's like, it's not about paying for what your ancestors did. It's about acknowledging that it was bad and making it better for everybody. Like, it's about, at the end of the day, it's equality. It's about everybody's life having value and the same value. And people just don't see it because it's the me mentality, like you were talking about before. It doesn't apply to me. I don't see this. I'm fine. Why aren't they? All this stupid shit. It's really ridiculous, sad and unfortunate. But hopefully we, like you said, there's a big change or something that changes people and changes our society, because we really need it, because it's really scary. I think about this. In my life, I've never been more concerned about politics than I have now. And I'm at the point where I honestly, I've never ever even imagined thinking this way, but I'm like, I want to move the fuck out of America. I want to get out of this shit show. I don't want to be an American. I want to migrate. I think about that.
A good friend I was in the Navy with, he's been in Canada for a while. And I asked him, I said, don't try to sell me. Don't try to sugarcoat. Just really, what's it like? And he said, it's basically like living in America, except everybody's a lot nicer. And, it can be expensive and it's cold, but it's not much different. They don't have as much as emphasis on sport. He just ran it down, if he was being honest. To the T, who knows? Everybody kind of sells where they live a little bit if they really like it. But he was saying how it's just you feel so different because of the people. You don't feel a lot of pressure of assholes. You don't feel the pressure to be an ass.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When Trump got elected, I was really thinking maybe we should just back up.
I had that thought then, but it was more of a, just kind of a surface thing. But now we're looking at re-election, and I'm like, how do I get out of here? Oh shit, no country will let me in because of the stupid pandemic, because of the way we've acted, how we've responded to this. I'm like, oh shit, I waited too long. I'm trapped.
We somehow re-elect him.
Oh well,
I don't know, bro.
Yeah, my fiance and I were just having this conversation just before I got on with you about how she commented how she's never really realized how much influence the president can have on people until Trump. And, I was like, well, I think part of that is because he was a celebrity, and Americans put so much stake in what celebrities say and think. And because he was a celebrity going into that, he already had influence over people, and I think that's why you don't see it. You didn't see it in previous administrations, because it's like, sure, they have some influence, but not quite the same influence as celebrities.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really scary, too, like that somebody can have that much influence on people. I mean, I look at the Trump administration, to me, is a cult mentality. You can have a straight up fact, something that Trump did, doesn't matter what it is, something bad that he did. You can have a straight up fact, can be a straight up quote, video proof that he said this, and somebody will be like, oh, no, he didn't mean that. You're taking that out of context. Yeah. You don't get it. No, Trump's the greatest. That is cult mentality. As soon as he says, drink the Kool-Aid, maybe that's what we need. Maybe we need him to say, drink the Kool-Aid, and then we can start fresh. But, I mean, because it's funny to laugh at, but it's also very scary, because that's exactly kind of what it is. It's like a huge cult mentality when you have somebody that people think can do no wrong, and they don't see them for who they really are. You're in fucking trouble.
I've seen more than a few people just say, ha, I just love the way he pisses them off. Go Trump. Not that they have anything concrete that they agree with, or that he's done, or that they don't acknowledge that he's done some horrible things. They just like that he pisses off the opposite side. Mm-hmm. And they say, oh.
It's to them, and that goes back to the entertainment thing. Him being a celebrity and things like that, and America putting stake in celebrities and entertainment. To people like that, all they see is entertainment. This is fun. This is like watching a reality show, but they don't realize it's fucking reality. Like we're playing with fire, like a very, very dangerous fire. And I think about how the world's, how things have been changing just in the last 4 years, and how they're getting worse. And I can say I am a middle-aged, straight, privileged white guy. I know it. I'm aware that there's things I will never understand. I'll never be able to relate and know. And I can't imagine what it's like for somebody that's a person of color in certain situations. Because even being how I am, I get nervous in some of them situations. And it's like, now add a color, and it's 110 times worse of a nervousness, and a feeling. It's just, it's crazy. I mean, and I don't know that, I've thought about going into politics, and it's like, well, you can go in with good intentions, but how long before the system corrupts you? It's like, but then it's like, there's the catch-22, because then having that mentality, it's like, are you really trying to be part of the solution? Or are you just, part of the problem? Because you're making up excuses not to be part of the solution. It's like, so overwhelming. It's bad. I don't know. Hopefully we get there. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But I don't even. It gets to the point where sometimes you just have to shut social media off. Shut it down. Not that that's a solution, because it'll still be here when you're there. I think. I honestly, I really respect people, especially people like you, who, you're. One of the things I've always had issues with is when you have people that are ignorant and don't understand things. People get mad at you if you don't. The people that you're disrespecting get angry, and kind of the way they act towards you isn't helpful. You know what I mean? But you've been doing a lot of these little videos about trying to have conversations and things like that, and I feel like, and I really respect you for that, because more people need to do that. Because if you want people to change their minds on how they feel about a subject or topic or a group of people, you can't do it by being aggressive and angry at them, because all that's going to do is cause more animosity and make them even more afraid to learn something.
I've thought this for a while. Speaking of just strictly of race, not politics or anything, I think it's to move forward. I don't care what anybody says. Black people have to be like the good parent. We can't be. There's rage and there's anger. Yeah. And some of us are going to have to express it, and certainly should be able to.
So. Rightfully so.
But I think for the larger conversation, as unfortunate as it is, even though we bear the burden of the racism and of the injustice, we still have to, in the conversation, be the good parent, because there's just no room, I think, for the larger conversation for us not to be. It'll just shut people down. And again, I don't think it's about some type of reparative or some type of it's about moving forward somehow, and someone hearing our story, and then us listening to whatever it is they have to get back, and somewhere in the middle something has to happen. But I really don't, and I'm sure I'd get shit on by other people, but I think in that process we got to be the good parent still. We just got to bite our lip and because of those things. Those are just real world things that you talk about. People shut down when all you do is say you're a piece of shit, even though it's clear they're a piece of shit.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Exactly. People end up their natural defense systems pop up, and then they, like you said, they shut down, and it goes back. I seen a video of Charles Barkley was talking about the people that I don't know all the details because I haven't really delved into it, but other than what I've seen, little things popping up on social media about certain black celebrities and the anti-Semitism and stuff like that. I don't know all the details, but he was basically to sum up what he said. He's like, you can't fight hate with hate, and it goes, and that's true. It's really, I mean, you can't. It's not gonna. You got to have conversations, but at the same time, as you guys, like you said, having to be the good parent and biting the tongue and the lip or whatever, and having these conversations. People, the white person in the scenario needs to be open and willing to listen and have the conversation too, instead of just I'm right and whatever. I mean, it takes two. It takes two. It takes everybody. It really does.
And they got to be genuine about. And there's room for you to be frustrated and say that you're frustrated. And be angry still. We're only human, and we're trying to, because I think a lot of this, it's not everybody. And even for a lot of people who are even openly racist. A lot of times it's so many outside factors that you don't even know are influencing you or making you act that way. But if we can talk about it, maybe say, look at this, look at that, and you can go, oh, shit, I didn't know. Maybe you can change, right? But I just can't say, change, goddammit, and you're going to change. That just doesn't work.
No,
again,
exactly.
I'm not trying to soft shoot. I'm not trying to say, that it's our job to fix it. I'm not. I'm just saying for stuff to get fixed, both parties, if there's a disagreement or whatever, have to come to the table with something.
And I just think
in the long run. Yeah.
Yep. No, you're absolutely right.
Because I know a lot of black people are like, fuck that. We've been getting shit on. Look what happened to George Floyd, 100 names, right? And you expect us to still, if in divorce court, if there's a problem with the kids and one of the parents has been a piece of shit, the other person can't just say, I'm not going to go to court.
Yeah, that's true. Nope. I mean, they could skip going to court and then and look what happens. You're not going to get what you want.
So
yep.
It's unfortunate.
That's a really good analogy.
I
was thinking.
I go, wow, that's going back.
Yeah. I was thinking too about what you were talking about, how it seems like things, we're always after the next thing, the next trend or whatever. And, these problems just kind of, they surface and people are all about them and then they teeter off. It's almost kind of like a cat in a ball, like it's like something happens and then suddenly somebody throws a ball and the cat goes after that, and then there's starting to work on a solution for a problem is like the ball. We get the ball rolling and then, here's a new ball, now go after this. We don't want to finish what we started over here, which is very unfortunate. But, so this has been a great conversation. Not even comedy related so far, but we're going to get a little comedy in it. I want to at least get a story out of you about a bomb. As we're almost out.
So I did a podcast with Benji and I told my most infamous bombing story, but I'll tell my second most. They're both around for whatever reason. For me, there's an energy I give off. I don't know. Black audiences oftentimes don't really take to me too well. And then, so it's kind of got a psychological thing with me. So I was doing Onyx Room downtown.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a black crowd, right? Here's who was on the show. Me, Keith Soul, Ryan Hicks. Not Ryan Hicks. Who's the guy who does all the improv? That's all he does. He does straight improv.
Oh, Russell Hicks.
He was always at the.
Yeah, Russell Hicks.
Yes. Me, Keith Soul, Russell Hicks, and Zoltan. That was the lineup. And all I'm thinking going in is, I'm going to show Russell and Zoltan that I'm so much better now. This is a black room. I'm about to crush this shit. Keith Soul was the headliner because he knew the people who ran the room. I think it was Russell, me, Zoltan, Keith. I think that's how it went. Russell gets up, and he's Russell. So he's slaying. I get up. The crowd is hot. And, I think, whatever. People are getting up and walking around and talking. And I'm trying to, maybe do some crowd work, whatever. None of my jokes are hitting. It's horrible. I'm just 10 minutes of just flame out. Zoltan gets up right after me. And you know how hard it is after somebody kind of walks the room or something.
Mm-hmm.
And he's Zoltan. And you can hear people saying, he's funnier than the black guy.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, horrified. I was just like, great. And then Keith closed out, it's his house. So he killed. The only guy who ate shit on the show in a black room with two white people was me. So that's my.
No. That's tough. But like in that sense, do you feel like part of that might have been because I feel like if you're not a crowd work person, like if you don't have that skill, it's hard to follow somebody who's really good at crowd work. And you and I both know Russell Hicks is like the king of crowd work, one of the best crowd work comics that there is. And he can go in with nothing and just destroy a room. And I imagine, going in with just regular material, it's hard to follow that because comics that do that also change the energy of the room because now the audience is involved in the show and they want to be still involved in the show. And if you go in... Especially,
black audience love to be involved in the show. Right? They do.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I did one of P-Man's Raw shows, and that was an experience.
What I'm talking about. And I just, I've changed a little bit over the years, but I like what I love about stand-up. I understand you got to have those tools in your bag, shutting down a heckler, crowd work, whatever. I like the purity of my job as a comedian has been to write some stuff and prepare it for an audience, right? So I like the purity that I can come up and do that. And you either like it or you don't. And then the next guy, he's doing his from a different perspective, whatever. And at the end of the night, we can kind of say, damn, okay, he was good, he wasn't, whatever. Crowd work kind of throws that off a little bit. So I've been really stubborn adhering to, look, just let me I've worked on this. Let me do this. And, if you don't like it, that's cool. But let's all sit the fuck down, be quiet, and let me go to work.
Yeah, let me do my thing. No, I definitely agree. I agree with that, too, because that's how I feel. It's like I've worked really hard to write this material. This is the material I want to do. I don't want to come in and have to do crowd work because I'm not good at it. That's why I write. I'm not good at improv. I'm not good at crowd work. I can write a joke and then tell said joke. They're not always funny, but I can at least do it.
I nobody. Maybe if I get to that level, I can say something different, but nobody will ever talk me off at this point. Guys who already have a name and a following, it's infinitely easier to me because people came to see you. Mm-hmm. So even if you do crowd work, it's cool. Even if you come in and just start material, don't even address the crowd. It's cool because they came to see you. And they'll sit up straight and they'll pay attention to watch you. And we got to battle all the time to keep them and hold them and, listen to me. This is my perspective on whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would love to get to the point where I come in, they say, Dewey Bratcher. And I'm saying, hey, boom, this is what's going on.
Yep. Yeah. No, I feel like that should be everybody's goal. I mean, honestly, that's what I would love. I would rather have my own following, where, like you said, I can go do, people are coming knowing what I'm going to do, and they're going to enjoy that. Whether it be my nerdy material or family material, whatever I'm doing, I can just go be me on stage, and the crowd's going to love it because they already know what's up. Versus I got to try to win over.
Let's go see Dan tonight. Just good shit.
Yep. Yeah, that's definitely a goal to work to, but it's definitely hard to get there. Yeah, it's like and that's where kind of social media can kind of help, but at the same time, it's like, I just don't know if I have the energy for that. But talking about everything we talked to at the front of the podcast here, a deep conversation about everything going on, and we touched a little bit on politics and the racial stuff and things like that. I'm curious how much racial inequality have you had to deal with as far in comedy goes? Like, has that ever? Because I do remember an instance where we had an issue at a show, and I mean, it was a member Dick's over in El Cajon. You did some jokes about dating white women. People got irate.
Yeah.
To the point where we were like, yeah, we're not doing comedy here anymore.
Yeah. Oh God, I remember that. Yeah.
But has that
other than
really
that, man, no, I've been pretty fortunate. I think SoCal, you got to give credit for that. There's some pockets where I guess it could be depending on what you're putting up on the mic. You could have some problems, but Billy Bonnell used to do a show in Lakeside. I did that a couple times and had a really good time. I went out to a VFW way up in up by Campo, just way hell out in the sticks, and had a great time, doing some sort of browner material. I'm not going to front and say that racism, I've experienced anything overt like that, except for that time. And it may be one or two other times at a show where somebody was acting like, and you're like, oh, really? But to me, that's just life in general. I can't say this, I'll say, yeah, San Diego, still only has 3 or 4 black comedians. And, I've been around for 10 years now. And I think Chip has finally moved out. I think he's in Arizona. He may be in San Diego still. I haven't seen him in a long time.
Chip is in L.A. at last I knew. He moved to L.A.
Okay. So, Simpson's gone. So there may be one or two other, a few new guys. I know Dee Dee Stepney, she's down with Benji. She's a really funny young black lady. And there's a couple of, and so they're out there, but I'm talking about who are getting booked at the Palace and Madhouse or the Store, which doesn't book a lot of people anyway. So that's still a deal. That's still, and I think when you talk about race, one of the things that people don't acknowledge that they need to is if your norm is to just see the same type of faces, and you're not doing it intentionally to just only see those faces. It's just what you're used to, and you're seeing the same type of faces over and over. Maybe look at that and see what's really going on. Can you shake that up a bit? Because what's really happening is people just trying to be comfortable, and at the same time, their comfort level doesn't include people of color, right? And so they're people are getting opportunities, and people need opportunities to grow. There's absolutely no way that a guy who does a bar show every weekend and a guy who does Madhouse or Comedy Palace are going to develop at the same rate. Impossible. That as well as I do, right?
Absolutely.
It's impossible. So whoever favors at the clubs, they're going to grow and be better. So that to me, that's where the rubber meets the road. And I just think people got to constantly evaluate, why am I doing what I'm doing? In terms of giving opportunity, no matter what it is, jobs, sports, comedy, entertainment, whatever, evaluate. Continue. Are there people out there that I haven't brought in? Why I haven't brought them in? If they're not funny, I'll be the first one to say, well, then fuck no. But if they're about as funny as the people you keep bringing in every weekend, dude, switch it up, man. So,
no, absolutely. No, that is very, very good point. I like that you're so honest. You're like, if they ain't funny, get them out of here.
Funny guy there,
Yeah. Well, and I think that kind of goes back to when I asked the question about audiences and stuff, where you're talking about where you haven't really necessarily experienced anything like that from an audience, because I think funny's funny. Doesn't matter where it's coming from, unless somebody is being, overtly racist and choosing not to laugh because they don't like this particular person. Out of that, but you're not. And I can't say that doesn't happen at comedy shows. But I feel like in general, you're not going to run into that because, people go to laugh. They go to a comedy show to laugh. And if somebody says something funny, they're going to laugh. And it doesn't matter who it came from. If it's funny, they're going to laugh at it. and if it's not,
in that room, oftentimes people let their guard down and they laugh at themselves. Sometimes they love to laugh at themselves, even more so than other stuff, right? Make fun of me and what I do, that type of thing. So.
Oh yeah, yep. Everybody wants to be part of the show. Yeah. Everybody wants to be part of the show, but they don't realize there's not enough parts for everybody. They don't understand how the play works. Yeah. Oh, man. Good times. All right. Well, we better get finished up. I'm going to ask you a couple things real quick. We'll do some speed stuff here that I like to finish up on. The bumming of bombing, when you do have a bad set, how long does that feeling typically last with you? And how has that changed over the years?
It used to last early on. Of course, I was bombing a lot, and it still with me forever. It still went to the next set or the set after. Now it's just kind of like, because you can't ball. So I'm just like, and you try to figure out, why did I choose the wrong material? Was my energy off? Was it the audience? Sometimes it is the audience. Sometimes it's just these motherfuckers ain't laughing at shit tonight. So
how do you? That's a good lead into the next question. Then how do you kind of analyze your sets after you bomb, or how do you try to figure out what happened, and how do you kind of come to that determination?
I try my best to get a good read of the room before. What part of the city is it? Although that can be really, really, really deceiving. I did when Trump first got elected. I did a show up in Carlsbad, I think, which is rich. I would think conservative white. And I said, well, let me test the waters. And I said, what about Trump? And they all stood up and went, boo. I did a joke and they did a applause break. And I was like, I didn't think it was going to happen here. More laughs. And then I go down to Madhouse, and I just don't get it because Madhouse should be from all over the city. And I'll do a little Trump, and it just turns people off. I've had some rough times at Madhouse lately. So if the tough part is if let's say you've worked up a new 10, and you're trying to really get that 10 good. But you kind of know going in, this 10 might not work here. But I'm working this 10, so I got to do it and try to see if I can tweak it so it can work here as well as, So I think that's what I love about the art of it. How can I, pick this part or that part? What can I do to dissect it? It's almost like I'm sure as you're preparing a character and you're acting, you're trying to pick pieces to make this thing the best it can be. And so at rehearsal, you're trying this, you're trying that. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And the better artist, ends up making the right choices. And I think that's with comedy. Some choices.
Oh, sorry to interrupt. I was just going to ask because you actually have kind of a theatrical background with where you went to high school.
Yeah,
from college, right?
It's so long ago. Yeah, at high school and college, but it's so long ago I wouldn't dare say that it holds any sway now. It's just something that was in the past. But
gotcha. I was going to ask if you apply some of the things that you learned from that into comedy in building.
Makes me more comfortable on stage naturally, I think.
Oh, okay.
I think I always had that out of the gate. Just being more comfortable naturally.
Yeah, definitely helps with the nerves and stuff, I'm sure, if you're used to being on stage.
Yeah.
That's for sure. All right, now we're going to do some fun stuff. Do you have a pre-show ritual or a tradition?
I got to pee before every set, sometimes twice.
Hey, well, that's a different one. That's but a good one.
Damn, I'm saying,
Definitely.
gotta be.
Yeah. There's nothing worse than, like, especially if you're featuring or headlining a show, of going up and then suddenly having to go to the bathroom, or like right before you're about to be announced, you feel it coming and you're like, oh shit, I don't have time to go to the bathroom. And then you get up there and you're like, oh man, this is going to be a long half hour, 45 minutes.
Here's the thing. Hey, Dan, listen, man. I'm 54. When I gotta pee, brother, I gotta pee. You understand what I'm saying? I can't be on the stage like I gotta, because I'll have to get off. I'll be like, I gotta go.
Fair enough.
So that's
fair
why
enough.
every time I gotta pee.
Oh, that's great. We talked about one of your worst performances. What's been one of your favorite or one of your best gigs so far?
I mentioned something up at Aces on Benji's thing, which is probably my all-time favorite. I did a show again, a Benji show at the he's got a show in Hillcrest now, and it's an urban night. And I was just thinking, that's the weirdest thing, urban night in Hillcrest. And sure enough, half the audience was white. So, but I had a good group of my homies from work who were Black and Hispanic showed up, and I just felt really loose and good. And it was I had a really good set. Everything was I was just present. It was immediate. Couple of hecklers, I shut them down with some good stuff. My closer blew the roof off, and that was a really. I remember thinking, I wish this was at a club. It was just, but even so, the energy in the room was great, and that was a good set, really good set.
That's awesome. All right, the last thing I like to do is play a fun little game called Pick a Number. You're going to pick a number between 1 and 20, and then I'm going to ask you a corresponding question.
Okay, let's go 12.
12. All right. Oh, this is a great question. What's the best piece of advice you've ever gotten? It's a thinker.
I always think of my mama right away. Best piece of it. Oh, geez, there's so many. Jeez.
I know this is a tough one. I'm sure you've had a lot of great advice over life.
Well, it's not really advice, but it was just kind of a way of approaching life my mom showed me. So, one summer I spent the summer with her actually before she moved to Texas, and I had my son with me. And I'd been living in California, hadn't been seeing him every day because I was in the Navy. So I got out of the Navy, and me and him were spending, me and his mom were getting divorced, but he spent the summer with me, and he was really kind of acclimated to his mom. And so he was really kind of like a little whiny, whatever. So we're having dinner, and he's very picky about what he wanted to eat for dinner. And my mom puts dinner down, and he says, I don't want to eat this. She says, well, baby, that's what we got for dinner. And he just starts crying. And he says, well, I don't want to eat it. And she gets up, she starts to walk upstairs, and she says, I bet you eat breakfast. Good night. And I don't know. It's not a piece of advice, but it just, I was like, well, sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes you just gotta walk away. Yeah, that's a good lesson in life. A good lesson of life, that's for sure.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Bet you like breakfast. I'm out.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Oh, well, hey, this has been so much fun. It has been so great catching up with you and having the conversation that we did. Last thing, where can people find you? Go ahead and plug the social media.
So my Instagram is at Dewey Funny. My Twitter is at Dewey Bratcher. And, you can send me I'm Dewey Bratcher on Facebook. Send me a invite, and I may friend you, I may not. Depends on if I see a Confederate flag on your profile.
So if they have a Confederate flag, you're going to friend them, right? Because you got to change them. Oh, all right. Oh, thanks so much, Dewey. This has been great. So great catching up.
Appreciate it, brother. Hey, be well up in Dakota.
Minnesota. The Art of Bombing is a Blitz Entertainment production. Hosted and produced by Dan Bublitz Jr., The Art of Bombing intro music was written and performed by John Holt. All other music used in this podcast was under the Creative Commons license. If you would like to help The Art of Bombing, you can do so by subscribing, rating, and reviewing our show on whatever podcast application you use to listen to The Art of Bombing. For previous episodes, blogs, and more, visit artofbombingpod.com. Have a great week, and remember, stay safe so you can live to love.